what you do when you don't have a production crew. It's just you doing it. All right, I'm really excited about today because I know this stuff cold. We're on the air here and here on Periscope. You're watching Power Lunch. Thanks so much for joining me and your fellow cohorts in the entrepreneur, solopreneur, startup, branding, and marketing business. Really, today's show is about the human business because the fact is, networking is a human endeavor, not just a business endeavor. And quite frankly, it's something that you are meant to do and actually designed to do. You are actually designed to connect with other people. That's what you're born to do. Pretty much nothing else. I mean, we're basically here to procreate. If that's my only job, I'm obviously failing at it. But this is the thing. Networking is being human, except networking sucks so bad because it takes what it is to be human and then puts it in an ill-fitting suit. That is the tough part about networking. It's awkward. No one likes to do it. It feels awkward because it's like, burp, 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 I'm going to start networking now. It's this like awkward, horrible thing. Well, it doesn't have to be. It's time to take the work out of networking because it's not just like, oh, it's nice to know and good to like meet different people and just see what they're doing. No, you're in it to grow. You're in it to help other people, to serve other people, to also grow your business. You are nothing without your network. Nothing. I could not be more serious. Your resume is your past. Your job or your clients are your present, but your network is your future. It literally is. Yes, Grant Cardone has very kindly invited a whole bunch of people to join. Thank you for joining us. We're also on Google Hangouts, and I'm broadcasting to you in both places. You're watching Power Lunch. I'm Terry Jaspicio. I'm the host of Solopreneur on the Grant Cardone TV network, which is called Whatever It Takes. And you know what? Grant really changed my mind about something, by the way. Hello, Grant friends. I've been hosting the show on Grant's network and having a fabulous time doing it. It's every Tuesday at 4, but it's always up there. You can go and look at it. It's called Solopreneur. And Grant said on one of his rants, you know what? You shouldn't be bragging about that. Maybe you shouldn't be bragging about just doing it yourself. And you know what? He's 100% right. And I already was thinking in that, and I thought, oh God, he's right. It's too small. I don't want to stay. It's like riding a unicycle. I'm just going to ride a unicycle. I'd rather be attached to it, create a bigger engine, not just be attached to an engine. That would be employment. But I mean, you actually have to do it yourself. You want to do it yourself, but you got to have other people. You don't have enough to offer. Well, hello there. And guess what else happened? Before we get into this topic at hand, let me tell you the other thing that happened. Not a day later after I heard this from Grant, I was in a restaurant. I was actually sitting at the bar with a friend of mine having barbecue up in Massachusetts. And these two guys were talking to them, just, making conversation. He's like, so what do you do? And I always pause because there's like a million things. And, you're like, oh God, what do I say? And I said, and I started by saying, oh, well, I work for myself. And before I could even get into it, he stops me. He goes, oh, so you don't have a job, you're unemployed. And it was kind of rude, like a little bit rude. Like he was a little bit of a jerk, I thought. But also I was like, oh my God, thank you for that gift. He was like, I don't know what BGC is, by the way, unless you're talking to someone else. I was like, wait a minute. He thinks I'm unemployed. I know I'm not. I have more work than I can handle. But when I said, I work for myself, he said, you're employed. And I thought, oh my God, working for yourself is the new euphemism for unemployed. I need to be bigger than that. And my friend here, who also is self-employed, said, by the way, she goes, that's why I'm telling people the fact, which is she's starting her own boutique marketing agency. That's what she is. I have an agency too. I function as an agency, but I was thinking too small. And I have been. And you know what? It's time to change. As Grant says, it's time to 10x things. Maybe I'll start with 5x. No, we got to start with 10. But anyway, a major reason and a way to do that and how and why we're going to do that is also expanding your network. And I know what you're thinking. It is so greasy, slimy. I don't want to do that. It feels kind of like, oh, I'm in here on the take, on the make. It feels weird and gross. Well, it doesn't have to be. And so I'm going to show you, if I can get my slides up, and I'll turn it around and show you. Here's what we're going to do. And this is, by the way, see that? This is so clumsy, and I know it. There's just no other way to do this. But the book is called Take the Work Out of, you know what? I'm just going to do this. The book is called Take the Work Out of Networking. How to Connect with People and Talk About Yourself Without Feeling Like a Phony. It's an ebook. It's my first one. It's free. And if you go over to terrytespicio.com, I know it's a long name. I'm going to get a shorter URL for people. Go ahead over there and put your name in there, and I will get you a copy of this. It's just about to be done. It's in the final process of being edited here. And I want you to get a copy of it because it has far more in here than I can possibly share with you today. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what it has in it in a bit. But let's start here. Networking sucks. It sucks. You know why? Because it has the word work in it, and you're treating it like work, right? You have to stop seeing networking as a work thing and start seeing it as a life thing. I don't know how to comment on here myself. How do I add? I don't know how to do that, but you'll see it in a second. This is the problem. You're already a natural. You already know how to talk to people. But as soon as you think, oh, I have an agenda, you get awkward. Kind of like you feel when you're about to go ask someone for money. You know how awkward that feels? That's kind of how you feel when you're going into a networking situation. It's terrible. You got to change the game up. Now, this is the thing. You don't see. Yes, thank you, Paula, for sharing that. Someone sharing the link there. Paula was saying you need a shorter link because your name is at pain. I know. The secret power of networking. I want to just, before I can tell you what to do, I got to give you a bigger reason why to do it. Here's why. This networking, there's a fear. Well, then I'm going to be dependent on people. No. Networking makes you more independent. That's one of the big secret powers of networking. Whoops, I skipped one. It makes you a better employee. Now, I know a lot of you are, some of you are really wanting to go out on your own, but some of you do work for other brands and bigger businesses. And you think, well, I'm only going to network when I need to, you know, go find another job. Well, that's the worst time ever to network. And if you're going into a new field, yes, then you really do have to network, and we can talk about that. But it makes you more valuable where you are. You know, I say it's easier to get a job when you have one. This is a big one. People go, oh, I need a network so I can find a job. No, I believe that networking lets you leave work. When you show me someone who's miserable at their job, show me somebody who hates their job and hates their life and feels stuck, and I'll show you someone who hasn't put much into their network. Because when you have a really fertile, vital network that's fed regularly, fed and watered regularly, you actually don't feel stuck. But that's something you don't think about. Everyone thinks about networking during the transitions. It's not the right time to think about it. You gotta start thinking about it now. Hi, guys. This illusion, even the illusion I've been putting forth as solopreneur, like, oh, I do it all myself, that's bullshit. No one does anything alone. And not me, certainly. My God, the greatest investment I have made this year has been in other people. The best thing I've spent money on, other people to help me do what I want to do and help them do what they're great at. No one does anything alone. No one. And if they do, they're doing it in a box and they're not growing. Do I have a big virtual team? It's not big. It's focused. It's laser focused. And it's a team that shifts, by the way. And that's why I'm always networking. You have to, yes, you absolutely have to give before you get. But the team doesn't have to be big. I don't think you just need lots of bodies. I think you need a very light focused team. Also, certain people I bring in for certain projects. Not everyone's doing everything. This is the flexibility of the 21st century virtual team. Work is seasonal. People are perennial. People outlast the jobs, the connections. So you have this job, you're not there anymore. Are you in touch with anyone from that job? Why not? What about people? Like, your network is big, not just because of where you are right now, but where you've been. Those people know other people in other businesses. So don't get too caught up in just the work or just the job or just this project or just this client. You are bigger than any one job or client or project. You have to be in order to survive. Really quickly, here's some things that networking is not. It's not an umbrella. You do not reach for it right when it starts raining. Too late. Too late. Well, thank you. If you're looking at networking as something to save your ass, you have not covered your ass. I should put that on a bumper sticker. It is not a power tool. I can't tell you that number of people say, oh yeah, oh, it's time to do this. I got to really ratchet up my networking. I need to really do it now. I got to get out the power tool and make it happen. It's like, you try to like force networking, you can't do it. It's just like the stock market. I was just talking to one of our clients. I was like, the advice there is the same. You don't grow overnight. You have to accumulate. What is the compound interest of your network? That's the question. Are you feeding it regularly, growing it incrementally? And you think you're going to meet two people who just turn their whole business around. I've had that mentality. I've met someone be like, oh my God, she's going to change everything. No one changes everything for you. You have to do that. And again, all this stuff is in my book. It's a very slim little thing. It'll take you like less than an hour to get through, but you will go back to it again and again. It's called Take the Work Out of Networking. Just go to terryjustbeshow.com. And if you're like, what's that person's name? Go to Terry T on Twitter. Find me on Terry T, Territ, and then you will be able to see my website right there. It's also not a hat. When people act like they're networking, oh my God, that's the worst. It's the worst. You put a hat on, you're like, oh, like you're in the middle of talking, maybe having a beer picnic, and then all of a sudden the guy finds out or the girl finds out that you're in a similar line of business, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, they put this big hat on. They're like, so, and it's like, what are you doing with this hat on? Just talk to me. Just talk to me. To find out more about it, just follow me at Terry T on Twitter, and you'll see my website there, rather than spelling out my last name. So don't put a weird hat on and start acting crazy. Like acting like, oh, I'm going to be all businessy now. No one likes that. The last thing it's not is an ATM machine. If you think you're going to get, if you think you're going to get stuff out of your network that you put up, oh, I invested in my network like 2 years ago. It's not, no, it's at Terry T, Territ, not Y, I. Your network appreciates over time, but only if you maintain it. It doesn't just grow on its own. You have to grow it. Okay, so enough of that. Get the awkward out of your networking off. Yeah, you know what? You just made a good point there. You said just be yourself. The fact is that people don't know who they are. Yes, that's the right Twitter handle. They don't know what that means because the me when I'm with my boyfriend, the me when I'm with my mother, the me when I'm with my kids or whatever, that's not, you're like, which one? Which me? That's the tough part. And so the goal is to be the best you by removing the awkward from your networking efforts. Change the goal, make your goal to connect first. So instead of focusing on what you're going to get from a networking event, focus on what you'll give. Show me someone who says, this networking event sucks, and I'll show you someone who's really not making an ounce of effort to make it valuable. Want some pain-free networking tips? Right here. Aim to ease. Make it your goal to put someone else at ease. These things suck. They make you feel horrible and awkward. You walk in, you're like, where's the bar? What do I do? What do I do with my coat? If you see someone standing by themselves, you go over and just be like, hi. Like, you don't have to be like, what do I do? What do you do? And you don't have to be all formal. Make your goal to put someone else at ease and they'll already like you. Second, be curious. Be curious about who they are and what they might do. Not like, I'm curious, how can you make me money? Not that kind of curious. Curious about who they are and what they're interested in. You never know where those things will line up. Allow for some vulnerability, really important. If people go in there being like, oh, I have to be hot shit because I'm networking. No, you don't. Show that you're a real person, like with real things that you're dealing with. Now, don't get too vulnerable. You don't want to start talking about your divorce, especially if it's not finalized. And listen first, talk second. I'll say it again. Listen first, talk second. It's just so easy to think, well, what do I say? I got to think of something interesting to say. Just listen. Was it Oprah? I think my sister is like a total Oprah hound, and she was like, Oprah said, everyone just wants to be heard. That's it. Yeah, of course you want to keep it real. You want to be yourself, but these are catchphrases that mean nothing. What does it mean to be real? If being real means like talking the way you do with your friends and like dropping F-bombs every second, maybe that's not the place to do it. And lastly, give your conversation, yes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. There's a reason. Give your conversation handles. Exactly. Paula, everyone wants to know that what they do. Everyone wants to know that what they do counts for something. Uh-oh. Did I just lose the scope? Someone called me, and I don't know how that works. Lastly, give your conversation handles. That means when I go to talk to someone, I'm talking to someone, okay? Hey, how are you? What do you do? By the way, I don't say that anymore. I try not to say, what do you do? I say, so what do you spend your time doing lately? What's a project you're interested in? Because if I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm an attorney, I don't know. Like, tell me what you're, okay, say that, but then tell me what you're working on right now. It's not interesting otherwise. But when someone asks me, I say something that's gonna have something in it that gives it handles. Like, oh yeah, and I da-da-da, and I work out of my apartment, or I do this, and one of the hardest things is getting people to feel comfortable speaking in the media. Oh, really? Well, what are your tips for doing that? Like, maybe they're asking for your advice. Great. Be a resource. Give information away. You really don't want to be afraid of doing that, and people are. Thank you for following me on Twitter at Terry T, Territ. Elevator pitch, there's another catchphrase I'm not crazy about. Because elevator pitch is like, you're going to give me a speed sales pitch. I want you to actually talk to me and tell me what it is you're working on, what you care about right now. I know what I'm good at, but what I'm interested in this month isn't the same thing as I'm interested in last month. And lastly, introduce other people. Such a great way to get a little group going. And another great tip for networking is to get to the event early. You can leave early, but if you get there late, you end up being like odd man out. Now, we don't have a ton of time. We're not going to get through all of these things, but here's some tips for how to talk about yourself. Because let's face it, it can be incredibly awkward to be like, yeah, so I do this. You don't want to brag. I hear a lot of, particularly women, men don't seem to have as much a problem with this, but women will be like, oh, I don't want to brag. I don't want to be like, I'm talking, the question, like, what do you do? Oh God, I don't know what to say. Oh, and here's what you shouldn't say. And I've said it and I hate when I say it. I say, oh, it's complicated. Oh my God, that sounds like a lot of work. It's complicated. So I asked you a simple question and now you're going to drag me through everything you did or didn't do. And while we figure out your career together, I think I need a refill on this gin and tonic. That's what's going to happen. So think of it simply. Here's what I do. I describe it as a service, not a task or title. I'll get into that, what that is. Tell an anecdote or an example. Give an example of what you do. People don't know. They say, yeah, and they yes you to death, but they don't know. Share a recent success. Lend some insight. Like I said, give away information. Can we talk about the service thing? Because when you say like, oh, well, thank you very much. I'm a web designer, or like I'm a graphic designer. Okay, that's what someone says. I'm like, and you could do anything. What does that mean exactly? Right, Sai? What does it mean? What does it all mean? What it means is I want you to put what you do into context of who needs it and why. Because if you tap into a need that maybe one of my clients has, now I'm interested, right? So here's the difference. I'm a graphic designer and I work at this, as a fundraising nonprofit. Okay, there's the conversation stopper. It's like, and now what? So you want it to be like a little bit more, right? A little bit more than that. So instead you say, what I'm a graphic designer, and what I do is I try to create really beautiful collateral, really enticing images so we can get donors' attention and get more money for our cause. Well, now you've just connected it. Thank you so much. I'm in New York City at the moment, right in the middle of Manhattan, where I will live and die. But do you see what I'm saying? And by the way, and I know we've talked about this before, like, oh, what do you do? I help people. Everyone helps someone do something. I mean, someone who makes bridges helps people get from one side of the land to another. So it's not just helping. I want you to think about, what it is you help people do. Okay, for instance, for me, I'm a branding and strategy coach. That means zero to most people. What I'm really good at doing, and I'll tell you, when someone goes, well, what does that mean? What do you do? I help people put into really clear, concise language and words and messaging what they most want people to know. And I've landed this as my term. My catchphrase of what I do. I help make what you care about compelling to other people. in every social, every media outlet, every kind of media platform, whatever. If you're pitching investors, if you're pitching prospects and clients, I gotta get it down and say it. I do it better than anyone. I'm telling you, it's my sweet spot. So that's what I tell people. Right, exactly. Some people help make burgers. But if you're a burger maker and you want to know how to make that a bigger story and how to make that a mission, I do that. That's what I do. Here's some tips. Another thing about when you're networking and how to do it and how to talk about yourself and with someone else. You ask open-ended questions. You think like a talk show host. I hosted a radio talk show every day for several years on SiriusXM when I worked for Martha Stewart. It was really a fantastic experience. I loved doing it. And I learned how to talk to people. Not that I didn't know how, but I got to be better at it because I was hosting. And that meant I was confident because it was a show. And I was able to make people comfortable. I asked open-ended questions. How do you feel about doing this? What do you like most? What did you do before that? Etc. Listen for the handles. If they mention Brooklyn, oh, well, I've been to this restaurant in Brooklyn. Like, figure out a way to use every handle to open a new drawer in the conversation. I already said be curious. It's obviously important to me. And assume the best of someone, right? That is what's important. It really is, because when you go in being like, oh, what am I going to do? What is this person going to do for me? It can be really like, yikes. Well, thank you. Yes. I was born with the voice. I didn't do radio for a time later. Let's see. I am zipping ahead here. Don't have time really, but I want to show you something. By the way, if you're just joining us today, which thanks to Grant, many of you are, I am going to I do this every Thursday. Every Thursday at noon, you can join me for Power Lunch, a new topic every week. Next week, we're going to do how to turn your brilliant ideas into products and services. Because someone said to me, oh, is it like, is that a product or service? To me, all services are products and all products are services. And next Tuesday on Solopreneur, which is this show right here. You recognize that? That's the show. That's the show that's on Grant's network. And thank you to Grant for sharing this Power Lunch today, this podcast. What are we doing? Periscoping? Yes. Every Tuesday at 4, but they're up there. You can watch all of them. That's one thing I want you to see. Another is, yes, no, that was this week. Whoops, sorry about that. And the book. Sign up now for a newsletter. I have a new newsletter called Brand Spankin' News. I promise you it's entertaining. Give me a month and then unsubscribe. Hey, this is a good question. How would you interrupt someone who doesn't stop talking about their own company? You know what I do with people like that? I throw them off their game because they're getting into a business spiel. So when someone's getting into a business spiel, which can be, crazy making. Let me stop sharing the screen so I can be back on. When someone starts talking about their go to how to get the newsletter, just sign up. Go to territspshow.com. But to find me, go to @TerriT on Twitter. TerriT. Oh gosh. Sorry, just got a call. @TerriT on Twitter. It's my website. Go there, sign up, and you'll get the newsletter, which only goes out twice a month, and at this point, and you'll get a copy of the book. Take the Work at Networking. It's all of that and more, and I'm really serious about it. What's in that ebook, which is free, is I'm going to help you rethink your approach to conversation. You're going to discover some of the benefits of networking, which we touched on today. We're going to get to your question in a second. Find out what not to do when you meet somebody new, get the awkward out of social functions, and start looking at every interaction as not something to nail, but as a conversation to continue. I think that's the problem. I know it's the problem. You're going into networking events to close instead of to open opportunities and conversation. The whole goal is to get another conversation going. That is it. When you look at it that way, it's a lot easier. Hey, thanks for checking out the site. The question about big blowhards who talk about their business all the time and won't be quiet. What I would do is say, well, listen, Bob. I always use Bob as like my annoying conversation guy. I'll be like, Bob, sounds like you're doing some really interesting things, but tell me this. I want to ask your opinion on something. And then I give maybe an example of something else. Maybe I really am struggling with something. I want to tap him for I want to redirect the conversation. You say, well, that sounds really cool. You don't have to, okay, his annoying name is Ken. So next time you see Ken at a thing, have something that is yours that's fun to talk about, because I think the reason you don't like talking about him to him is he's boring. So what I'll do is ask a personal question. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what, Ken? Something about me tells me you used to be a Boy Scout. It's every Ken. Literally, I'll ask a random question like, are you, I'm not going to, you're outing this poor guy. I'd say, hey, what do you think of this? Like, this guy may be highly intelligent and helpful and sensitive. He just doesn't know. He just keeps talking about his own company. So give him a problem to solve. Ask him for specific advice. Ask him a personal question to get him off that rut. And worst case scenario, you get out of the conversation. You say, you know what, Ken, it was so good catching up with you. I promised myself I would talk to 3 people I don't know tonight. So if you excuse me, I want to make sure to circulate and I want to make sure to free you up too. That's how you get out of that. Don't say, I'm going to get a drink, because he'll follow you to the bar. So if you really want to, get out of it, you got to get out of it. Yes, it's all common sense, isn't it? It is common sense. I'll show you. Hang on. Oh my goodness, we're about to be over time. How can this be? I'm going to show you this, blah, blah, blah. Here's a peek at what the book looks like, which I'm really excited about. It's really my first one. So here's what you'll get. It'll be a PDF. It really is beautifully designed by Suzanne Reed Design, who she is terrific. If you need a designer, I'm happy to recommend her. Problem with networking, how to tap into your natural ability as a networker. I mean, it's just a nice, slim, simple volume. And I would love you to have it. Well, listen, our time is up. I promise you, every week on Power Lunch, 30 minutes or less. And I love all the questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to them all. I think that maybe I'll do less on the prep side and more answering questions if you will come next time. And thanks to Grant Cardone for bringing everyone in. Yes, the 4-Hour Workweek, great one to read. All right, are we good? We're good, Google Plus? My Google Plus friends. Thanks for sticking in there, and be sure to join us next week when we talk about how to think about turning products into services and services into products. By the way, if you have questions you want answered, please email me through my site and contact me and send me them. Oh, I'm thinking of possibly having someone join me on the Hangout, and then I could help do some laser coaching. Google Plus is dead. I know it kind of is, but it's just an amazing free platform. It's hard to say goodbye to. All right, we're done. Thanks so much for joining me. And we'll talk to you next Thursday at noon.